Okay, let's first offer our respects to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay, so what did we see in the previous class? We finished chapter number
8.
What is the title of chapter 8?
Attaining the Supreme.
Attaining the Supreme. Very nice. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll read the chapter summary, which we didn't do in the previous class, and we'll recollect all that we saw in this chapter. So would the mother and son duo of Mehek and Harman like to read? Yes, Mehek, you raised your hand.
Mataji, we had a homework before we advanced for the class. You
Oh,
had
yes.
given us a homework from Chaitanya Charitamrita,
Yes,
chapter 21,
yes, yes.
verses 59 to 89.
Yes. So we'll come to that at the end of the class. Can you remind me, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you. So would you and Harman like to do the reading today, Mehek?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's read this chapter summary before we begin chapter 9, please. Let's do this. Before that, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay. Let's read the summary.
Okay, I'll take the turn.
Okay.
Attaining the Supreme. The 8th chapter of the Gita is almost exclusively concerned with the moment of death, the moment of the jivas passing from the material body. Verses 1 to 2, Arjuna asks Krishna 7 questions. What is Brahman? What is self? What are the fruitive activities? What is material manifestation? Who are demigods? Who is the Lord of sacrifice and where does he live in the body? And how can those engaged in devotional service know Krishna at the time of death? Verses 3 to 4, Krishna replies Brahman refers to the indestructible living entity, Jiva. The self refers to the soul's intrinsic nature of service. And fruitive activities means actions that develop material bodies. The material manifestation is the ever-changing physical nature. The demigods and the planets are part of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord of sacrifice is Krishna himself as the super soul. Krishna replies to the first 7 questions very briefly, for he has earlier dealt with them at length. But his reply to that last question concerning remembrance of Krishna at the time of death continues until to the end of the chapter.
Okay, so here there is a correction I have to make. Krishna replies to the first 6 questions briefly, and then the 7th question he replies in detail. So here is a correction that I need to make. Okay. Okay, let's continue with our summary.
Verse 5, Krishna tells Arjuna that whoever leaves the body remembering him attains his abode. Verse 6, the quality of one's consciousness at the time of death determines one's next destination. Verses 7 to 8 or 7 and 8. Since the content of one's thoughts and memories at death is influenced in turn by one's consciousness and activities during life, Krishna instructs Arjuna to think of him constantly, even in the course of his prescribed duties. By such constant meditation, one reaches Krishna after quitting the body. Verse 9. Krishna instructs how one should meditate on him. Verses 10 to 13, Krishna describes that arduous Ashtanga Yoga method of meditation on Krishna for the attainment of spiritual planets. Verse 14, Krishna concludes that he is attained most easily by one who is unflinchingly devoted to him, the Bhakti Yogi. Verses 15 and 16. After reaching Krishna in the spiritual world, the Bhakti Yogi never returns to the material world, which is full of miseries. Verses 17 to 21. Beyond the material world, which is perpetually created and destroyed, in the transcendental world, Krishna's eternal and supreme abode, upon attaining which one never returns to the material world. Verse 22, one attains his supreme destination, Krishna reiterates, by pure devotion. Verses 23 to 27. Krishna describes how different kinds of yogis leave their bodies at particular auspicious moments to attain elevation to celestial planets or liberation. The Bhakti Yogi, however, is indifferent to such processes. Verse 28. In conclusion, Krishna declares that his devotee, the Bhakti Yogi, is not bereft of the results of other systems of spiritual advancement. At the time of death, he returns to Krishna in the transcendental world.
Okay, so basically, this entire chapter deals with comparisons, different comparisons. And you can put these verses in any one of these 4 categories. So let's see what are the comparisons that Krishna has made in chapter 8. Let's read this.
Comparisons Krishna makes in chapter 8. Result of remembering Krishna versus remembering anything or anyone else at the time of death. What do Bhakti yogis do as a matter of practice to remember Krishna at the time of death versus what do Yoga Mishra's Bhaktas do to practice the same? Spiritual realm versus material realm. Then the 4th comparison. How do Bhakti yogis execute this process of remembering Krishna at the time of death versus what do Yoga Mishra Bhaktas do to execute the same?
Okay, so basically chapter 8 deals with how we have to die successfully, or the art of dying, which Krishna deals with in this chapter. Okay, does anybody have a question from chapter 8 that we need to discuss before we start chapter 9?
Not really.
Okay. So chapter 9 is titled as the most confidential knowledge, and it has a total of 34 verses. So we have discussed before how the middle 6 chapters are most important. They deal with the bhakti section. And the middle of the middle 6 chapters are chapter 9 and 10. So that's what makes these chapters even more special. So the middle of the bhakti section is the most important, and the middle of the middle section is chapters 9 and 10. That's why this is titled as the most confidential knowledge. And chapter 10 also is important. We will see that when we get there. So why is this titled as the most confidential knowledge? What is it that Krishna is going to reveal in this chapter that makes it as the most confidential? See, usually when we see a movie or we read a book, the climax of the book, the climax of the movie or the story is usually towards the end, isn't it? Because if the climax is going to be revealed before, then one loses interest in watching the rest of the movie. Therefore, the book. So the climax is always kept towards the end. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the climax is even before the halfway section. We have not yet completed chapter 9, which is the halfway of the Bhagavad Gita. We are still only beginning chapter 9, but already Krishna is going to reveal the climax. In the first shloka itself, Srila Prabhupada reveals that why this is called as the most confidential knowledge. So, and even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see the pattern, in the first few chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, it is explained that Krishna has already left the planet. He has already departed from here. So the central character, Krishna, has already departed. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn that. So then what is going to hold our interest for the rest of the chapters? So one may think that, oh, now what is coming up? But it's the genius of Krishna and the beauty of our Shastras that even though the climax has been revealed before, still it holds our interest. Still it is thrilling, still it is exciting, and still it holds its importance and its significance, right? Okay. So the Bhagavad Gita has 3 knowledge: confidential knowledge, more confidential knowledge, and most confidential knowledge. Guhya, Guhyatara, and Guhyatamam. So in chapter 2 and 3, Krishna has spoken about the knowledge of the spirit and the body. Chapter 1 is more or less like an introduction. In chapter 2 and 3, Krishna starts to talk about the difference between the body and the soul. That is called as confidential knowledge. Then in Guhyatara, in 7 and 8, where Krishna starts to talk about those categories of people who surrender unto him, right? Remember, he spoke about the 4 Sukritanas in chapter 7, by how people are surrendering unto him. They are engaging in devotional service, but it is not pure devotional service. But nonetheless, it is devotional service. So that is called as more confidential knowledge. And chapter 9 is dealing only with pure devotion, Ananya Bhakti or Kevala Bhakti or Akinchana Bhakti, pure unalloyed devotion. Therefore, this is called as the most confidential knowledge. Now, what is so confidential about pure Bhakti? We will see that in the next slide. But let's read this and then we'll do the Falashruti and then we'll see more in detail.
Why chapter 9 is called most confidential knowledge? Guya. Confidential, chapter 2 and 3, explains the knowledge of spirit, soul, and body, useful for liberation. Guyatara, more confidential, chapter 7 and 8, knowledge which brings about enlightenment about Krishna consciousness, Supreme Lord, and his energies. Guyatamam, most confidential, chapter 9, because it deals with Ananya, Kevala, how to pronounce that?
Akinchana.
Akinchana Bhakti, pure unalloyed devotion, and delineates the glories of the Lord.
So confidential knowledge is the knowledge of soul and body. More confidential knowledge is knowledge about devotional service. And most confidential knowledge is knowledge about the pure devotional service. But anyway, before we begin with the chapter, we need to understand the Falashruti, or the benefits of reading, reciting, hearing, learning this particular chapter. So these histories are from the Gita Mahatmya, the conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati. And originally this is from the Padma Purana, which is a conversation between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi. So Lord Shiva is telling Parvati that in a town called Mahishmati, on the banks of the river Narmada, there was a Brahmana called Madhava. Now this Brahman Madhava followed all the Vedic injunctions. He had very nice Brahmanical qualities, and he also received a lot of charity. Now with all the charity that he received, he wanted to perform a nice elaborate yagya. So he prepares for that yagya, and in order to sacrifice a goat, he brings a goat there at the venue of the sacrifice, and the goat is cleansed, bathed, and is prepared nicely for the sacrifice. But suddenly the goat begins to laugh, and he even starts to speak. So everybody is surprised, how can a goat speak? But this goat starts to speak, and he says, he's addressing Madhava, the Brahmana, and he says, "Oh Brahmana, what is the use of performing so many yagyas that simply bind us to the cycle of birth and death? Just see my own state and position after doing so many yagyas. Here I am in the body of this goat." Now Madhava starts to inquire from this goat, and he says, "How did you become a goat?" Obviously, this goat is able to talk and all that. So he tells him, "How come you have become a goat? And what caste you belong to in your previous life? What activities did you perform in your previous life?" Now the goat answers. He says that in my previous birth, I was born in a pure Brahmana family, and I carefully performed all the ritualistic activities that are given in the Vedas. Once my child was diseased, he was very sick, and my wife requested me to bring one goat and sacrifice that goat in the worship of goddess Durga. So therefore, as we were sacrificing the goat at the Durga temple, the goat cursed me, he says. Now there is a second goat, right? The first goat is narrating the story that he in his previous life was a Brahmin and he wanted to sacrifice another goat. So now there is a second goat. So the second goat is now cursing, and he's saying that because of you, my children will be fatherless. Therefore, you also will take birth as a goat. So here now I have got the body of the goat, he says. But by the special mercy of Lord Govinda, I can remember my past life. Now, this goat says, I have one more interesting story to narrate. If you wish, I can tell you. Which goat is saying this, the first goat or the second goat?
First.
The first one, yes. The first goat is saying, now he has just narrated the story of his past life. So now he's saying, I have one more story to narrate and I can tell you. So he says, in Kurukshetra, there was a king called Chandra Sharma of the Sun dynasty. And once during the solar eclipse, the king wished to give a Shudra in charity to a Brahmana, along with other things. Now this king, he has his Raj Purohit, no? He along with his priest, they go to a sacred lake, and the Shudra, there he has a bath and he puts on clean cloth, he applies sandalwood, and he returns to his place with great devotion. And then with great devotion, all the charity is presented by the king to the Brahman. Now after he presented all charity, suddenly from the body of that Shudra, one very sinful character, one very sinful Chandala. A Chandala is a dog eater. Okay, so very sinful Chandala appears. And after some time, a female Chandala appeared from the Shudra's body. And together, these two personalities, the male Chandala and the female Chandala, they went close to the Brahman's body. So this Brahman immediately, he started to recite the dash chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, fill in the blanks. Which chapter?
9.
9th chapter, yes. So he begins to recite the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and he is completely undisturbed. He is not hassled by the sight that he has just seen. Suddenly, from the body of a Shudra, two personalities spring up and they are walking towards him. So he's not hassled by all this. Very calmly, he starts to recite the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Then, as soon as he starts to recite this, the Vishnu Dutas appear there on the spot and chase away the Chandalas. Now the king has inquired from the Brahman, who were these two personalities and what were you chanting? And he also asked him, which deity were you thinking of when all this happened? So now the Brahman says that those two people were actually the personification of sin and offense, the personification of papa and aparad. And as soon as this incident happened and they were coming towards me, I started chanting the 9th chapter and I was remembering the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. Now the king is very happy to see all this, and then he says that, okay, now I have to learn this 9th chapter. So he learns the 9th chapter from the Brahmana and he recites it every day, and in the course of time attains the lotus feet of the Lord. Now our first Brahmana, our central character, what was his name? Anybody remembers? The first Brahman is understood. Madhav, yes, very nice. So the central character, our Brahman Madhava, he also released, after he heard all this from the goat, he releases the goat, he doesn't slaughter the animal. And he also engages in reciting the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita every day. And in course of time, he also attains the lotus feet of Lord Govinda at the time of death. So what do we learn from the story? What is a Falashruti? One, release from all fearful situations in life. So we saw how these two personalities, Papa personified and offense person, sin and offense personified, when they were approaching. This Brahman was not, he was not afraid, he was not scared, and he was very calm and relaxed, and he was chanting the 9th chapter. So this chapter gives us release from all fearful situations in life. So if somebody is going through a situation which is causing fear, maybe because of, it can be maybe health, or maybe some worry about a loved one, a close family member, or any other financial crunch, or relationships, whatever it is, if one is going through a fearful condition, then chanting 9th chapter helps greatly. Then second Falashruti, one remains untouched by papa and aparad. So sin and offense personified, they were approaching this Brahman, isn't it? But he remained untouched. They were not able to get to him. So one can remain untouched by papa and aparad by reciting, chanting chapter 9 of this Bhagavad Gita. And 3, of course, finally attain the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. So this is the Falashruti of this chapter. Okay, question. What is the difference between Papa and Aparad? Which is a more serious crime?
Aparad.
Aparad. So we have Guru Aparad, we have Vaishnava Aparad. One can commit offenses towards the Vaishnavas, one may commit offenses towards the Guru, one may commit offenses even to the Lord. So all these offenses are called as Aparad. And Papa means sinful activity, meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. Sometimes these same 4 activities can be Aparad depending on the situation. For example, if somebody is eating meat, it's a sin or an offense. What is it? Meat eating is a sinful activity or it's an offense?
Sinful activity.
Sinful activity.
It's a sinful activity. Correct. Now, this person who's eating meat is committing sinful activity, but now accepts a spiritual master. And after accepting a spiritual master and after promising to the spiritual master that I will not eat meat anymore, no more meat eating, right? Post initiation, after promise, then he starts to eat meat. Now it is pap or it is aparad?
Aparad.
Now it is aparad, isn't it? Because it is guru aparad. We are breaking the promise that we made to the spiritual master. So therefore, post initiation, the responsibility increases and we have to be more careful. about following the regulative principles. Okay. So the holy name counteracts pap or counteracts aparad?
Both. No,
Both.
both.
Both or
Both.
what? Who says both?
We had done this previously.
Okay.
In the
So what
previous
is the answer?
chapter.
Nothing. It cannot counteract.
It cannot counteract or it
will-
does not counteract.
So even if we are doing like we are chanting the holy name and then simultaneously we are also committing sin, then it cannot counteract that, right? Like if you do it just for counteracting that, then it cannot be counted.
Okay. So yes, what you're saying is correct. But actually, there is nothing that the holy name cannot counteract. It can, but it does not. The potency is taken away by the Lord. This example I must have given previously, that we may have money in the bank account. So that money is capable of purchasing stuff for us, right, in the market. But if the bank account is frozen, the bank manager freezes the account, I do not have access to it. The money can do it, but I do not have access to that money. So the holy name can, but the potency is taken away by the Lord when we commit an offense. So the only way to counteract the offense is if I offend a Vaishnava or a spiritual master or a sadhu or the Lord, how can I counteract it?
By serving them only.
Serving them?
Wait, Vaishnava Aparad, right?
Apologize to them because
So you have to get forgiveness from them.
Yes, by asking forgiveness from that person. If the person forgives us, then only it can be counteracted. We saw classic examples of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was forgiven only when Ambarish Maharaj forgave him, isn't it? Otherwise, even Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma were not able to protect him from the Sudarshan Chakra. And the other example we saw was Jagai and Madai. How Jagai and Madai were about to be killed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He invoked the Sudarshan Chakra, but because they seek mercy, they seek pardon from Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda forgave them. And then because Lord Nityananda forgave them, eventually even Lord Chaitanya forgave them. And then all the papa, all the sins that they were so sinful. Jagai and Madai were so sinful that every single sin that could exist in a sin book, they had committed all those sins, but they had never committed Vaishnava Aparad. Why they never committed Vaishnava Aparad is because they never came in touch with the Vaishnava. They were so sinful, they never came in touch with the Vaishnava. But here, Lord Nityananda tried to preach to them, and so they struck Lord Nityananda with the pot, isn't it? And then eventually, when they took shelter of Lord Nityananda, then all their sins, all their papas were forgiven. And looking at this, looking at the extent of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, where so much of pap, so much of sin was just brought down to a zero, they were just forgiven just like that. It even made Yamaraj faint. It even makes Yamaraj faint. So such is the extent. So anyway, so difference between papa and aparad. Papa is something that is done out of a weakness, right? Out of not following the rules and regulations. But aparad is something that is purposely done in order to hurt another person, another personality, exalted personality. So it is purposely done to hurt someone. That is aparad. Papa is done out of weakness. So somebody is not able to overcome his addiction for gambling, maybe. So that is a papa, because it's out of his weakness that he is not able to overcome it. That is papa. Of course, the reaction has to be taken, whether one is committing sin or committing aparad. The karmic reaction we have to take unless we surrender to the Lord or to his bona fide representative. Then the reaction to the sin we have to take. But when we surrender, then of course the slate can be wiped clean. We can change our destiny. Okay, so chapter 9 is divided into 5 sections. And chapter 9 and chapter 7 are very similar in the subject matters that are discussed. Just as how chapter 3 and chapter 5 were very similar, whatever Krishna spoke of in chapter 3, he went into great detail to explain in chapter 5. In the same way, whatever Krishna explains in chapter 7, he goes into great detail and explains them in chapter number 9. So again here, Krishna says that hearing with devotional service means hearing, and what are the qualifications and disqualifications for hearing. What did he say in chapter 7? Tat Shrino, just hear, he tells him. And he tells him that I am speaking this to you because you are my friend and my devotee. So those are the qualifications. And then in Krishna spoke about his relationship with the material world. In chapter 7, he speaks about how he is the source of everything material and spiritual, and how the material is made of 5 gross elements and the 3 subtle elements, right? So here again, Krishna is going to talk about his relationship with the material world and how he's the essence. How Krishna in chapter 7, he spoke about how he's the taste and water, how he's the light of the sun, how he's the strength of the strong, things like that. So very similar things he's going to speak again in this chapter. Then there are different people who understand Krishna in different ways. Not everybody has the same conception of God. So there are different people who worship or understand the Lord in different ways that Krishna will speak about. Again, here Mudas also we saw when we saw the 4 categories of people who never surrender to Krishna. There we discussed Mudas in chapter 7. Mahatmas, the Kevala Bhaktas, the pure devotees, Krishna will discuss. The 3 types, Ekatvena, Pratakvena, and Vishvato Mukham. The impersonalists, the demigod worshippers, and those who worship the universal form. Krishna is going to discuss that. And then he ends the chapter by glorifying Kevala Bhakti, or pure devotional service. So we will see this as we get there. So what is so secret about pure devotional service? If Krishna is talking about pure devotional service, why is that considered to be the most confidential knowledge? So let us read the translation to understand from the Bhagavad.
Translation. Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, the supreme person, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he works just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him.
So see, the Lord may even give mukti, liberation, very easily. But he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. That's why this process of rendering pure devotional service, pure bhakti, is considered most confidential, because he does not give very easily the opportunity to serve him. The reason is because that's the way we can bring him under control. That's the way. It's through pure bhakti, pure devotional service, that the Lord can agree to become the servant of his devotee. So he's a supreme controller, but he comes under the control, or he becomes the servant of his devotee. So therefore, this is the means by which we can bind the Lord. And that's the message that comes out loud and clear even from the Damodar Leela, isn't it? So that's the reason why he doesn't award this very easily. Therefore, whenever we have the opportunity to render service to Krishna, render any devotional service, we should grab that opportunity with both the hands. We should not let it go that easily. As far as possible, we should try to render service, because that opportunity Krishna does not give so easily to everyone. Okay, even bhakti he can give easily, but he will not give the opportunity to do the seva that easily. Okay, So that's why this is most confidential knowledge. So the common themes between chapter 7 and chapter 9, we've already discussed this before, so let's just read them.
Hearing from Krishna, 7.12, and in the 9th chapter, it's 1 and 2 verses. The relationship between Krishna and material nature. The common verses of chapter 7 are 4, 7, 7 and verse 12, and in common in chapter 9 are 4 and 10. Krishna's potency manifested within matter. The common verses in chapter 7 are 8, 11, and in chapter 9, 16, 19. Worship of demigods contrasted with worship of Krishna. Chapter 7, 20, 23, and in chapter 9, 20, 28. The impersonalist knowledge of Krishna contrasted with that of devotees. Chapter 7, verse 24, 26, and in chapter 9, 11, 11 and 15.
Okay, so worship of demigods and impersonal knowledge of Krishna also. These are the other two things which we didn't discuss before, how Krishna talks about them in chapter 7 and also in chapter number 9. So we will see this as we proceed. So what is the connection between chapter 8 and chapter 9? What is the connecting verse? Let's read.
Connection between chapter 8 and 9. At the end of the 8th chapter, Krishna explained that his devotee, fixed solely upon him, Ananya, surpasses both the path of light and the path of darkness. In chapter 9, Krishna will explain, without being prompted by Arjuna, how to become an Ananya Bhakta. It starts with hearing.
So we saw towards the end of 8th chapter, Krishna saying that it doesn't matter at what time my devotee passes away, whether it is during the waxing moon or the waning moon, whether it is Uttarayan or Dakshinayan, it does not matter. My Bhakta will attain the supreme destination. He will come to me. And then in the last shloka of chapter 8, Krishna spoke about how one who engages in pure devotional service, it is considered that he has done everything else, and he gets the benefit of doing all other activities that are done by the other yogis. He is considered to have read all the Vedas. He is considered to have done all the penances, austerities, all the yagyas. It is considered that he has already done all kinds of charities. So he gets the result of doing everything else when he does Bhakti Yoga. We saw that example of the superset and the subset, if you may remember. Okay, and here this chapter number 9, Krishna is speaking without prompted by any question from Arjuna. So this is the ecstasy that is flowing from Krishna's heart on his own. In this entire chapter, Arjuna does not speak at all. He does not ask any questions at all. Everything is just spoken solely by Krishna. There are only 4 such chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the second one that we are seeing. Which was the other chapter we saw which was solely spoken by Krishna before? Which chapter is similar to chapter 9?
7.
7th chapter. So 7th chapter and 9th chapter, Krishna is the only speaker. There are 2 more that we will see later. Okay, so section 1 is just the first 3 verses, hearing, qualifications and disqualifications. So let's see, 9. Let's hear our audio.
अथ नवमोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभाम्.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall relieved of the miseries of material existence.
So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you, I shall speak to you this most confidential knowledge. So Krishna is saying, I'm going to speak this to. So again, devotional service begins by just hearing. We just have to hear from the right sources, hear from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. One, even if one is hearing the same content, but is not hearing from a bona fide authority, it will not have the same impact on us. It may it it will not lead to purification. For example, there are many professional singers who may sing a kirtan or a bhajan, but if they are not devotees, if they are engaged in sinful activities and they are only doing it for money, then it will not have that kind of an impact that it should ideally have on our hearts. There are also professional reciters, no? They have this Bhagavad Sapta. They come and read the Bhagavatam for 1 week and they will charge. I don't know what are the current charges, but something like 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees they may charge for Bhagavad Sapta 1 week. So they come with their troupe of professional singers with their musical instruments and they will recite for 1 week and they will go. But at the end of that 1 week, you will not find even a single person will be chanting the holy name. It will not have any impact on the heart of the person because people are not hearing from the right source. So therefore, it's very, very important that we hear from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Okay, so proper hearing is the means to obtain the most confidential knowledge. Now, here, what is the only qualification that Krishna mentions for one to receive this most confidential knowledge?
That you should not be envious of me.
Exactly. This is the only qualification. Never be envious of me. Now, when somebody is envious, let's say there are two people, A and B, and if A is envious of B, and B starts to reveal his glories to A, what will happen to A? Is A going to feel happy or he is going to burn in envy, further burn in envy? It is going to cause him distress or is he going to be happy? If A is envious of B and B begins to talk about his glories, is A going to be even more envious or is he going to feel happy?
He's gonna feel envious.
Yes, he's going to burn further in envy. He's going to be even more envious. So he's going to be even more distressful. And he's not going to be able to understand the glories of B. He's not going to be understand. So if one is envious, if one is an envious state of mind, if he's going to be envious towards another person, he is never going to understand what the person is saying in the right spirit. So therefore, it is very important that one is not envious. Therefore, Krishna is saying, because Arjuna, you are never envious of me, therefore I shall impart this knowledge to you. Envy means we burn because of Krishna's glory. Now, when somebody says that, oh, Krishna is dancing with the gopis, I also want to be like Krishna, and I also want to dance with many gopis. That actually means that there is envy in the person's heart because he wants to be Krishna. That's not how a devotee thinks. What does a devotee think? A devotee thinks, what can I do to qualify myself? What can I do to uplift myself so that Krishna can also dance with me? That is how a devotee should think. Okay. Normally, when we watch a movie or when children watch movies, then they like to be the central character of that movie. They like to be the hero or the heroine of that movie. If they're watching a sport, they want to be the star player of that game. Or if they are reading a novel, they like to be the central character of that novel. So that all that is actually envy. Nobody thinks that, oh, I would like to be the side heroine or the one who's playing the friend of the hero of the movie. People don't think like that. They want to be the central character of the movie or the novel or the game, whatever it is. So that is actually envy, because we are trying to replace the best. We want to be the best. We don't want to be the servants. We don't want to take a subordinate position. So if somebody thinks that, oh, Krishna is dancing with the gopis, I also want to dance with the gopis. Or that Lord Shiva is depicted sometimes to be intoxicated, and he's dancing out of intoxication, then I also want to intoxicate myself. Or somebody may be thinking, there was another, I was just discussing this morning with Slot One, that how some people have a problem. They say that Lord Ram ate meat when he was in the forest. So then I can also eat meat. So we have to understand that we cannot imitate the activities of great personalities. We have to follow in their footsteps. We have to follow their instructions. We have to follow their instructions. We cannot imitate their activities. Once somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, people say that Lord Ram ate meat in the forest. Why we cannot eat meat? So Srila Prabhupada said, Lord Ram can eat meat, he can eat you, and he can eat the whole world, because he is God. We are not God. We cannot do such things. Same thing, if somebody says Lord Shiva is getting intoxicated, then well, Lord Shiva also drank the poison that came from the churning of the ocean. So then why don't we drink that poison first? If somebody says that I want to dance like how Krishna dances with the gopis, but then Krishna also lifted the Govardhan, why don't you first try to lift a mountain and then you try to dance with the gopis? Right? So all these statements made by people is actually coming from envy, and such envious people will never be able to understand this most confidential knowledge. So therefore, Krishna is saying the only qualification is if you're non-envious, then he will impart this most confidential knowledge to us. So devotion means we rejoice in Krishna's glory. That's a devotee. So now Krishna knows very well, he is fully confident that if he reveals his glories to Arjuna, Arjuna is not going to think, I want to be like Krishna. Okay, Arjuna is going to feel happy about hearing about the glories of Krishna, and it's going to make Arjuna come even more closer to Krishna, even more intimate with Krishna, and bond even well as a devotee of the Lord. So in order to facilitate that, therefore Krishna is willing to speak this most confidential knowledge to Arjuna, because he knows that after Arjuna hears my glories, he is not going to want to replace me. He is not going to want to become like me. He is going to want to serve me better. So therefore, there will be more intimacy in the relationship between Guru and disciple, or God and his devotee. Let's read this.
Krishna reveals his glories only to those who are devotionally pious. Why? Because the more a devotee hears his glories, the more his attraction for Krishna increases. Why doesn't Krishna reveal his glories to those who are envious? Because the envious will become even more envious and offensive, and create further misery and spiritual misfortune for themselves.
So why doesn't Krishna reveal his glories to those who are envious? Not because Krishna does not like them, Krishna is against them. No, Krishna is always a well-wisher to every living entity. Yes, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. The devotees are very close to his heart. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in several places, Krishna is also described as Kripana Vatsala. He is also the well-wisher of the Kripanas, of those who are not his devotees, who are not following the rules and regulations, of those who are fallen, right? Kripana Vatsala. So Krishna is also the well-wisher of the Kripanas. He's not only Bhakta Vatsala, he's also Kripana Vatsala. So therefore, it is for their benefit that he does not reveal this knowledge to them. Because if Krishna reveals the knowledge to those who are envious, then they will become even more envious. They are going to burn even more in envy, and they will be more offensive. they will be more offensive towards Krishna. And when one commits offense, then he creates more misfortune for himself, because now he has to take very strong karmic reactions for that. So in order to prevent this person from committing more offenses and from creating more misery and more misfortune for themselves, therefore Krishna does not reveal this most confidential knowledge to those who are envious. Therefore, everybody cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita. So if we approach the Gita in the right spirit, then only we can understand. Okay, let's come back to our shloka. So here he says, in the fourth line, you can see Jnanam Vijnanam Sahitam. So how he is going to give this knowledge? He's going to give Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. He's going to give both Jnana and Vijnana, the knowledge, the theoretical knowledge, and as Vijnana means practical application of that knowledge. So we have seen these two terms before, Jnana and Vijnana. Now, which is more important? Krishna is saying he gives both, but which of the two is more important, Jnana or Vijnana?
Application of the knowledge, Vijnana.
Okay, so next is Vijnana is more important. Anybody else wants to answer?
Jnana.
Jnana. Okay, so mother and son don't agree on one point. All right.
No, I said Vijnana.
Oh, you said Vijnana. So you and your mom agree. Okay, very nice. Anybody else wants to try? So let's take a situation. If somebody is diseased and he goes to the doctor gives him, first of all, there is a diagnosis. Okay, what really is the problem? Somebody has a constant headache, and he goes to the doctor tells him, okay, now we have diagnosed your disease is such and such. That is compared to Jnana. Now, to cure the disease, now you have to take this medicine. That is Vijnana. Which of the two is more important, diagnosis or treatment?
Treatment.
Treatment. Okay, so if you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, I have a constant headache. So the doctor says, okay, you take these 20 tablets every day for the rest of your life. Are you going to do it?
They need to do the diagnosis before the treatment.
Exactly. So now which is more important?
Jnana.
So
Both
Jnana,
are equally
okay.
important.
So Jnana, okay, wait. So Jnana, okay, doctor tells you,
But they
okay,
have
now
to-
you have this disease. So now you can go bye-bye.
No.
So then?
It
So
should
both
be
are
like
important.
both are equally as
Both are
important.
important.
Yes, both are equally important. We need Jnana and we need Vijnana. We need the theoretical knowledge as well as we need to apply that knowledge. If we have the knowledge theoretically and we don't apply it, then what is the use of that knowledge?
That's
And
no
if we are
point in
going to apply something, if we are doing something without the knowledge behind why we have to do it, then what happens over a period of time, we will lose faith. Why are we? We will start to think that this is blind faith. This is just a superstition because there is no explanation. There is no knowledge of why we have to do what we have to do. And that is the reason why the current generation are not following the Vedic customs, because the reason why it has to be followed has not been passed down by the parents. And that's the reason why everything is considered to be a superstition. Everything is considered to be a mythology. Mythology comes from the word myth. Everything is considered to be a myth because there is no jnana is missing. So Vijnana over a period of time will die out. The practices will die out because this faith is not strengthened. So in order to strengthen the faith, we need jnana. So both are equally important. Let's read this statement by Prabhupada.
The one which is quoted, right? Religion without philosophy is sentiment, or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation.
So religion without philosophy is sentiment. So if we are doing some religious practices, but without understanding the philosophy behind it, then it is sentiment, then it is fanaticism. Then people think that, oh, you are just crazy, you're just mad. That's why you are following this, just blind faith. You're just blindly doing this without any reason. Okay. So religion without philosophy is sentiment or fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is just mental speculation. So both we need, both are equally important. So this example we've already seen, living entity is compared to a disease statement, jnana is the diagnosis, and vijnana is the prescription. So a person who has taken to spirituality, what is the difference between a spiritualist and a materialist? The difference between a spiritualist and a materialist is a spiritualist has gone to the doctor, has gone to the spiritual master, has been diagnosed that you have this material disease, and this is the medication you need to cure yourself from the material disease. Chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles. Okay, and a materialist, he is diseased, but he is not aware that he is diseased. He has not gone to the doctor, so there is no diagnosis and there is no medicine. So both of them are diseased. Both the spiritualist and the materialist, both of them are diseased. But the future of both of them is very, very different. The future of a spiritualist is different. His future is healthy because he's going through the treatment and he's taking the medicines. So he is going to be healthy in the future. But a materialist is going to, his condition is only going to worsen because he's not taking the medication. So although both of them are diseased, the future of both of them is very different. So therefore, it may appear that even a spiritualist is suffering, right? Sometimes, see, this is a misconception that people have in their minds that if I take to spirituality, if I take to Krishna consciousness, then I should not suffer anymore. I should not go through any suffering. No, suffering will be there because we are in Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. We are in the material world. So we have to go through birth, death, disease, and old age. It's not that a person who's Krishna consciousness, who's in Krishna consciousness, will not have a disease. He will not grow old. No, it is going to be there. Okay, the laws of material nature are going to apply. There is going to be birth, death, disease, and old age, but the future of a spiritualist is bright because at the end of this lifetime, he is going to go to the spiritual realm. But a materialist continues to suffer in this material world. So the future is different for both of them. Let's read this.
What differentiates spiritualists from materialists is non-absence of pain, but presence of healing. Material world is dukkhalam asvatam. It's like a hospital. Everyone in this world has to, sooner or later, bear the brunt of the world's distressful nature. Consider 2 patients who are both sick and in pain. Materialist is undiagnosed and untreated, but spiritualist has been diagnosed and is being treated. Though both of them are in pain, their future is dramatically different. The patient being treated will soon return to health, whereas the undiagnosed patient will stay sick or may even become sicker.
Yes, so this is the difference between the two. The future is different. Although currently it may appear that both of them are suffering, but their future is different. So here is a summary of the first shloka. Let's see.
Summary of 9.1. Theme: qualification and means to achieve most confidential knowledge, and benefit of achieving this knowledge are mentioned here. Means: proper hearing is the means to obtain most confidential knowledge. Qualification required: because Arjuna is free from envy, therefore he qualifies to hear the most confidential knowledge. And the benefit: relief from miseries of material existence.
Okay, this third point, relief, benefit is relief from the miseries of material existence. Let's go back to our shloka to see this. So here he says, Jnanam Vijnanam Sahitam. So he gives both Jnana and Vijnana. And then after that knowledge, then what happens? Mokshasya Ashubhat. So Mokshasya, he gets relief from what? Ashubhat, all that is ashubh, all that is inauspicious, okay, that he gets released from. So he gets relief from the miseries of material existence. So that's what it says. The benefit is relief from miseries of material existence. Okay, let's go 9.2.
राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदमुत्तमं प्रत्यक्षावगमं धर्म्यं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम्.
This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed.
So 7 characteristics of this most confidential knowledge Krishna mentions in this verse. What are the 7 characteristics? First of all, he says Raja Vidya. It is the king of education. Then Raja Guhyam. It is the most secret of all secrets. Then Pavitram Idam Uttamam. It is purest. It's not pure, it is the purest. So that's why Pavitram Idam Uttamam. It is the purest of all. Then Pratyaksha Vagamam. It gives direct perception of the self. Then Dharmyam. It is the perfection of religion. Susukham. It is joyfully performed. Susukham. One is very happy when one is performing this. It's very joyfully performed. It's not done out of stress, and no, that's not the mood of a devotee. Then Avyayam. Avyayam means it is everlasting. It is eternal. So here Krishna is mentioning 7 characteristics. We will try to analyze them one by one. But before that, let's read this.
Text 9.2. Further glorification of the most confidential knowledge. 7 characteristics mentioned. Raja Vidya, king of all knowledge. Second, Raja Guyam, most confidential knowledge. Third, Pavitram Idam Uttam, purest form of all activities. Purifying potency of devotional service is very strong. Fourth, Pratyak Swayagamam, direct perception of self by realization. Fifth, Dharyam, Dharyam, Dharmyam, perfection of religion. Susukhyam, blissful. Susukham, blissful. Avayayam, eternally everlasting.
Yeah, so we have some tongue twisters in this verse. Huh? Okay, so 7 characteristics. Now, first of all, Raja Vidya. It is the king of all knowledge. What does that mean? King of all knowledge, it means that once we know this knowledge thoroughly, then we can understand any other knowledge, any other philosophical class. Okay, we may attend a class on any other ism, any other path, any other faith, and we will understand what is going on. Because see, Krishna here, he's talking about Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, Bhagavan realization. So if somebody says that God is only a light, we can understand what is going on. If somebody says God is only Paramatma, also we can understand, right? So, and then Krishna also, so far he has spoken about demigod worship. So there are so many categories of people. Somebody is a devotee of Ganesh, somebody is a devotee of Durga, somebody may be saying why in Durga temples animal sacrifice is going on. Somebody may say, oh, but then according to me, Shiva is a supreme personality of Godhead. Somebody else may say, I'm a devotee of I don't know, somebody may believe in Jesus Christ, somebody believes in Prophet Muhammad, he's following the tenets of Islam. So, but if you know this knowledge thoroughly, you go to any other class, you will understand what is going on. You will know what they are speaking about. You will be able to understand that philosophy. There is nothing that you have to learn separately. By default, we know, because this knowledge covers everything else. Okay, so king of, and even otherwise, even if you go to a Srimad Bhagavatam class or a Chaitanya Charitamrita class, if you know the Bhagavad Gita thoroughly, then you will be able to understand what is going on there. And even if you see, you know, some see, Srila Prabhupada has some books that are printed, which are conversations that he had with other members of the society. And even with his disciples, most of the time when he went for morning walks, sometimes he would tell his disciples that, okay, today you take the role of material, of a gross materialist, and you tell me what is your counter argument. And then there would be an argument. And Srila Prabhupada would be able to defeat that person in argument within few minutes. Okay. Then Prabhupada would say, okay, now let's reverse the roles. Now I am the materialist, you are the Vaishnava, and now you argue with me. Even then, Prabhupada would be, even as a gross materialist, he would be able to defeat the person in argument. So then this person, just when he's thinking that, okay, so that means this is the correct argument, then again Prabhupada would again reverse the roles, and again he would defeat his own argument. So if we are thorough in this knowledge, then we will be able to understand another philosophy also thoroughly. So any philosophical class anywhere in the world that is going on, we will be able to understand what is going on, because this is the king of all knowledge. Another thing is, this knowledge has the potency to reform people, which is not possible. See, materially, the most powerful weapon, let's say the most powerful atomic bomb is dropped somewhere. It can destroy an entire town, it can destroy an entire city, but it will not change the negative traits of even one person. That atomic bomb, the most powerful weapon, will not be able to change the negative traits of even one person. It will not be able to remove the bad habits of the people. But this knowledge is so powerful, it is the king of all knowledge, that it can transform, it can purify the heart, it can change the consciousness of the people. That's why this is the king of all knowledge. Nowadays, there is a great drive to clean the planet. No, people are concerned about pollution, people are concerned about the rivers, there is concern about global warming, and we want to heal the planet. Okay, so even if the planet is completely clean, but if the consciousness of the people is still contaminated, then the planet is going to get contaminated all over again, because people are going to start doing all that nonsense and contaminate the planet all over again. So this will not work until the consciousness of the people is cleaned. There is no point in cleaning the planet, because it is going to again become dirty, because the people's consciousness is dirty. But if the people go through a purification, if their hearts are clean, their mind, their consciousness is clean, then automatically they are conscious of, okay, we have to take care of Mother Nature, we have to take care of Mother Earth, and then those things will automatically fall in place. So what is more important is to clean the hearts, the dirty hearts, the contaminated hearts of the people. And that potency is there in this Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is called as the king of all knowledge. Then Raja Guhyam, most confidential knowledge. So this we have already discussed. Why this is most confidential? Because it's dealing with pure bhakti, and Krishna does not allow, he does not reveal this knowledge. He doesn't grant the opportunity to render pure service to anyone and everyone, not so easily, right? He grants even mukti very easily, but the opportunity to serve him, that is not very easily given by Krishna. Therefore, this is called as the most confidential knowledge. So this we have already discussed. Now, coming to Pavitram, purest form of all activities. Purifying potency of devotional service is very strong. Pavitram idam uttamam. So let us read this quote from the Padma Purana.
Okay, Mataji, not the Sanskrit shlok, right?
Yeah, the translation will do.
Okay. There are different stages of dormant reactions to sinful activities to be observed in a sinful life. Sinful reactions may be just waiting to take effect. Phalonmukha, reactions may be still further dormant, kuta, or the reactions may be in a seed-like state, bija. In any case, all types of sinful reactions are vanquished one after another if a person engages in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. Prarabdha refers to sinful reactions from which one is suffering at the present. Aprarabdha means refers to the sources of potential suffering. Seeds have not yet fructified. These seeds of sinful action are unseen, but they are unlimited, and no one can trace when they were first planted.
Okay, so there is prarabdha karma and aprarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is what we already have received because of as a fruit of our past actions, as a reaction to our past action, which we have already received. For example, the body that we currently have is prarabdha karma, because we have already received this particular body as a result of our past activities, good or bad, we don't know. If our body is excessively diseased, if one is always falling sick, the body is diseased, then it is a result of our past bad karma, right? So one may have a beautiful body, or an ugly looking body, or a healthy body, or an unhealthy body. All that, this current body that we have is prarabdha karma, is a result of what we have already received. Then there is aprarabdha karma, seeds which have not yet been fructified. We have sown the seeds, we have already performed those sinful activities or good activities. We have performed those activities in the past, but we have not yet received the result of that. So when we sow a seed, the seed first begins to what do you call it? It starts to grow, then there is a sapling, and then it grows into a big tree, which is giving us fruits, palonmukha, right? So like that, even the seeds of our karma, which we have sown in the previous lifetimes, those we have not, some of them we have not yet received, and that is called as aprarabdha karma. So that is kutam, bijam, and falonmukham. Bija, they are still in the seed-like state. So the reaction is still little far away, it's not coming right away. Then kuta, it has now begun to grow in a sapling form, so it is more closer to us than bija. And falonmukha, it has already borne fruits, it's just coming to us very, very soon, right at the corner, or coming soon at a theater near you, as they would say. No, so that is kutam, bijam, falonmukham. But pure devotional service, or the knowledge that Krishna speaks in this chapter, has the ability, the potency to fry those seeds. Now, when a seed is fried and then we sow it, is that seed ever going to grow into a sapling or a tree?
No.
It will never grow. It will never grow. So devotional service, pure devotional service, that knowledge which Krishna speaks in chapter 9 is pavitram, idam uttamam, because it has the capability or the potency to fry all our past seeds so that they never fructify. So we don't have to suffer the reactions of those past actions. Again, just as how Jagai and Madai, everything was forgiven, everything was brought to a zero, in the same way, all our past activities also can be fried, buried, and dusted, finished, gone. So based on this, can we change our destiny? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, we can change our destiny, because what is our destiny? We are destined to get a certain reaction, right? Good or bad, based on our past activities. So if we take to devotional service, then because we are frying the seeds that we have sowed in the past, we can change our destiny. So we can change our destiny, provided we surrender to the Lord. Otherwise, we cannot change our destiny. Let's read this.
Srimad Bhagavatam 6:1.15. Translation and purport. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays.
So see, we can uproot the weeds of sinful activities with no possibility that they will revive. So we have uprooted it from the root itself. It has been removed, done away with. So that is the potency of unalloyed devotional service or pure bhakti or akinchana bhakti or kevala bhakti. Okay, so here, Raja Vidya, Raja Kuhyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam. We have discussed. Now we are going to discuss Pratyaksha Vagamam. It gives direct perception of the self. Let's read this.
Pratyaksha Vagamam, direct perception of self by realization. The execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. Any person who is chanting Hare Krishna without offenses feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. He gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure.
So
Bhagavad Gita
that
9:20.
yes. So Pratyaksha Vagamam, direct perception of the self. So we can perceive the results directly. We can, as soon as we take to this process, then we can see the results for ourselves. We can see how we feel pleasure and we become purified. Here Srila Prabhupada is mentioning these two factors. Any person who is chanting Hare Krishna without offenses feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. So we are getting pleasure and we are getting purified. So automatically it happens. See, when we start to chant, then what we are getting is higher taste. So automatically our attraction for the lower aspects. Okay, so somebody may be an avid lover of meat eating, or somebody may love to gamble, for example. But when he takes to chanting Hare Krishna, slowly he loses his interest in gambling, meat eating, intoxication, and illicit relationships. It does not interest him anymore. Because now he has uplifted himself. He has got higher taste. For example, if a child is holding on to a toy and you tell the child, give me this toy, the child is not going to be willing to give it to us. But if we give the child a bigger, a better, and a more attractive toy, and you tell him, okay, you take this toy, give me that other one which you're holding, then the child will be very willingly be able to give it off. Yes. So when the mind is given a better sense engagement, then automatically the mind is not going to seek pleasure in these lower things. So when we take to devotional service, when we take to the chanting of the holy name especially, then our mind is not going to seek pleasures in these lower things. So therefore, a spiritualist does not really enjoy what the materialists enjoy. Okay, so therefore people think that, oh, this person is spiritual and is such a bore, is boring. But this person, the materialists do not understand that actually the spiritualist is getting much more pleasure than the other materialists are getting in, let's say, in a discotheque, okay, on a Saturday night, out with friends, drinking some wine, whiskey, enjoying hanging out with friends. No, now this person has a higher taste, and therefore he does not enjoy these other things anymore. That is called as higher taste. So direct personal, and we can perceive, we can see the results for ourselves. We can see just by chanting. Okay. Now Prabhupada's disciples, When he went to the West, they were all into meat eating, intoxication. They were just gross materialists, indulging in all these kinds of activities, materialistic activities, isn't it? But they all underwent a change of heart, change of consciousness. And it's been now 40, 50 years. For 40, 50 years now, they are continuously chanting the same mantra day in and day out, 16 rounds every single day for 50 years, 5 decades. Do you think that they would be doing this if they were not getting anything out of it? Nobody is going to waste their time doing something if they're not getting something out of it. It is not going to last long, right? But if they are doing something for so many 50 years, day in and day out, spending every day 2 hours chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Obviously, they are feeling pleasure and obviously they are getting purified. That's why they are doing it. Otherwise, who's going to waste their time? Yeah, I think Mehak, you raised your hand.
Mataji, here you can just clarify if where it states previous education or qualification, the advancement, the spiritual advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous. So that previous uh, relates to this birth, or previous relates to our last, like the previous birth.
Yeah, it
Which
can relate to both. It can relate to this birth or it can also relate to previous birth. Even previously, maybe we had zero spiritual education, zero qualification. Maybe we were the most fallen, we were the most rotten, we were the most sinful. Just like Jagai and Madai, they were the most sinful. But still, if one engages in devotional service, then you are qualified. So bhakti does not depend on any other prior qualification. Anybody can engage in bhakti. It can be this life or previous life, both.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay, now,
Mataji.
okay. So coming back here. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Vagamam. We have discussed. Now we are going to discuss Dharmyam, how it is the perfection of religion. Here, let's read.
Dharmam tells you what is the highest religious duty. I should read the translation, right?
Yes, yes.
The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the sense.
So dharmyam, it tells us what is the supreme occupation, what is the highest dharma for all humanity. It is what that ultimately we have to come to the state of rendering devotional service to the Lord. That is the highest duty. That is the highest dharma for all living entities, for all humanity. And that devotional service must be unmotivated, not that, okay, I'm worshiping the Lord because I want something out of it. And it should be uninterrupted. So, okay, I need something, I worship the Lord, I get it, and then now I no longer worship. Now I'm interrupting. No, it has to be satatam, constant. So devotional service must be unmotivated, without anything to get back in return, and uninterrupted. It should be constantly. Whether Krishna keeps me happy or whether Krishna is making me suffer, whether I am being challenged in my material life, whatever it is, okay, I continue to worship Krishna. Now let's try to analyze this question. So because we are saying that this knowledge is the perfection of religion, now certain religions are more liberal than other religions in their tenets. Can they be called bona fide? Some religions may allow meat eating. Some religions may allow to have more than one wife. Some religions may allow you to eat onion and garlic. Some religions may allow you some other facilities. Okay. So are we going to say that these other religions are bogus, or can we call them bona fide?
We can't call them either.
We can't call them either. Okay. So if a religion says that the goal of life is to love God, It's bona fide or it is bogus.
Bona fide.
Bona fide. So actually the goal of every religion, if they teach that the goal is to love God, then you can call it as a bona fide religion. Okay. Now every person preaches according to three factors. What are they? Time, place, and circumstances.
Situation.
Just as how we have discussed before, how if we want to teach mathematics to a grade 2 student, we cannot teach him grade 12 mathematics to a grade 2 student because the student does not have that intelligence or the ability to learn grade 12 mathematics. So therefore, different preachers preach according to time, place, and circumstances. Now, if a religion says you can become God, it is bogus or it is bona fide?
Bogus.
Bogus, definitely. Now, some religions, if you give them some money, then some people will even make you God. Okay, they'll say, okay, give me money, I will make you God. They will glorify you in such a way, and they will what do you call it? They will advertise in such a way that they will, they will elevate you to the position of becoming God. So many film stars are being worshipped. No, there are temples and deities of film stars, murtis of film stars that are established, and they are worshiping them. Or even there are murtis of politicians that are being worshipped. Now, all that is not dharma. Okay, all that is all bogus because that is not authorized in any way. So any religion which says that you can become God, or any religion who says, if somebody declares that I am the supreme personality of God and worship me, then that also is bogus, because nobody can say that he is God. All the avatars have been described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even the avatar that has not yet appeared, Kalki avatar, there is a description in the Bhagavatam where he will appear, what is in which town, and what his activities will be. Those descriptions are already given. Even the appearance of Gautam Buddha was predicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam was written 5,000, documented 5,000 years back by Vyasadeva, written, and Gautam Buddha appeared some 2,000 years back. So it's already, it was predicted that his parents will be called so and so, he will be born in such and such a place, these will be his activities, and that's what eventually happened, right? So if somebody says that I am God and worship me, then it is bogus, because if that person is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam, then definitely he is not, that religion is not bona fide. So we have to be careful. Okay, but if a religion preaches that you have to love God, then it is bona fide. Jesus Christ also preached that you have to love God with your whole body, whole mind, and whole soul. So definitely it is bona fide. Islam also, eventually they say that you have to come to the stage of loving Allah. So it is a bona fide religion, but they are more liberal in their tenets. They are more, they are not so strict about the rules and regulations. So then how to understand this? How to understand this? So let's say we have to go from point A to point G. Point G is our goal. Now, bona fide religion will take us from a certain point on that green line on our path towards the Lord, from one point to another point. Now the rules and regulations that are given in the other faiths are according to, as I said, people preached according to time, place, and circumstances. So depending on the level of the people at that time, the rules and regulations were set up. Now, those rules and regulations depends on how much one is attached to sense gratification versus how much one is willing to surrender. So based on that, the rules and regulations were set by the different preachers. Now, other bona fide religions also will take you towards the goal. Sanatan Dharma also takes you towards the goal. What is the difference? The difference is Sanatan Dharma is that point which is closest to the goal, and it will take you there fastest. The other bona fide religions, because there is still some attachment to sense gratification, still there is a desire to engage in sense gratification. At the same time, they want to worship the Lord, right? So although they are taking you towards that goal, it will take more lifetimes. It will take more time. That is the difference. So all bona fide religions are taking you from point A to point B or C or D or E, depending on what is the proportion of how much I want to indulge in self-gratification and how much I'm willing to surrender. But in Sanatana Dharma, because the surrender is full, it takes you, it is the closest point before the goal. So here we can go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime itself. The more we surrender, the more closer we are towards the goal. The less we surrender and the more we are still attached to sense gratification, then yes, we are on the path, okay, but it is going to take us some more lifetimes. So this is the quickest, but that doesn't mean that the other paths are bogus. No, they are also bona fide, but they are little more away from the goal than Sanatana Dharma. So it was going to take some more lifetimes for that person. That's why sometimes people tell us, no, oh, y'all are very strict. No onion and no garlic also. What is wrong with onion and garlic? But okay, fine. Even if we are strict, but what's the advantage? At the end of this lifetime, we are going to go back home, back to Godhead. Others, yes, very nice. You are worshiping the Lord. You are following a bona fide religion, but some more lifetimes more. Okay, let us read this text.
The Lord comes in many forms, or he may send his messengers to preach to different sections of people based on time, place, and circumstances. Any religion that can take you from one point to another point towards the supreme goal is bona fide. To what extent one wants to engage in sense gratification at the same time worship Bhagavan may decide which religion one may follow.
Yes, so which path we want to follow, that decision we make depending on how much we are attached to sense gratification versus how much we want to surrender. Okay, so when we are less attached to sense gratification, when we are willing to surrender more, then we are willing to sacrifice more also. But if we are more tilted towards my own sense gratification, then I choose, okay, let me choose this path where I don't have to surrender so much, where I'm allowed some facilities. All right, very nice. At least it's a bona fide religion, but you have to be prepared to get to the goal after some more lifetimes. That's all. Okay, question. Is the religion that Krishna talking about here, is that Hinduism? Is the Bhagavad Gita only for the Hindus?
No.
No. Anybody else wants to try? Everybody agrees?
Yes.
Okay. So if you see, not once Krishna uses the word Hindu in all the 700 shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. The word Hindu is not mentioned even once in the shlokas. Not even once Krishna says Hindu or Hinduism. Nor does Arjuna bring up this word. So this is actually Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal. Eternal Dharma. Eternal religious principle. It is not attached to only one section of the society. It's not only for the Hindus, or it is not only meant for the Indians. Bhagavad Gita is beyond all these castes and nationalities and race. It is for everyone. It is eternal religious principle. Actually, there is no religion called Hinduism. There is no religion called Hinduism. Nobody, who is the founder? If somebody asks you, who is the founder of Christianity? Who is the founder of Islam? Maybe there is an answer. But if somebody asks you, who is the founder of Hinduism? Is there an answer? There is no answer to that question because there is no religion called Hinduism. The word Hindu comes from the name Indus. So this Indus River flows in the northwest part of India, okay, extreme northwest. And when the Persian invaders invaded our country, the group of people or the human population that lived on the eastern side of the river Indus, they were referred by these invaders as the Hindus or the Indus. Okay, so the Indus River, that word Indus became Hindu. So they were referred, these Persian invaders referred to all those who lived on the eastern side of this Indus River as Hindus. And that's how that word Hinduism came about. But actually, there is no religion called Hinduism. It's a concocted word that is given to us by those who invaded the country. And in entire Indian subcontinent, before India was invaded by the Persians and the Muslim rulers and then the Britishers, actually everybody followed only Sanatan Dharma. Everybody followed Sanatan Dharma. There was not a single person who was eating onion and garlic. There was not a single person who would drink tea and coffee. These things were unknown to the people who lived in the Indian subcontinent. Okay. Then when these people came, then they were forced to convert to other faiths. And all those who are in India currently following any other faith, actually their ancestors were forced to convert to another religion. Because previously in India, everybody followed only Sanatan Dharma. Okay, coming back to Dharmyam, Srila Prabhupada mentions this in the purport. Let's read.
Dharmyam, the principle of religion. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Acharyavam, Pursyoya Veda, one who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada mentions that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How this is possible? This is possible by associating with other devotees, associating with great acharyas. This so Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Narada Muni when he's explaining this point. Narada Muni in his previous lifetime was actually the son of a maid servant. His father had departed and the mother was left alone to bring up the small child, and they were very poor. And once some sages had come to reside nearby their cottage. Okay, it was 4 months. For a period of 4 months, they had come to reside there, and during that time, Narada Muni's mother. This is Narada Muni in his previous lifetime. Okay, so his mother used to serve these great sages, and he also, along with his mother, he got the association of these sages. So she used to wash the vessels of these sages, and she used to serve them and all that stuff. So these sages also, when they would take prasad, they would give this child remnants of their food. And this child used to eat the juta or the remnants of these great sages. Then after the 4 months period finished, then these sages left the place. And Narada Muni had received a lot of benedictions, a lot of blessings from these sages, and he associated with them. He ate their remnants also. So now he is not the same person he was before the sages had come to live there. Now, after the sages have left, now this child, he is only 5 years old. His father is already absent, and his mother also is bitten by a snake, and the mother also passes away. She also dies. So now, usually, under normal circumstances, a 5-year-old child will be completely disoriented, right? Because both his parents have passed away. Now, who's going to take care of the child? But because of the association he received from these sages, now this child, he starts to travel. He travels north in the country, and then he sits down and he meditates on the Paramatma. He meditates on the Super Soul. So this story is narrated by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you like to read the entire chapter. But here are some excerpts from the chapter. Let's read this.
Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.29. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. Text 1.5.30. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead Himself.
So see, by associating with these great sages, now they have, because they have, he has associated with them, and they have given him this knowledge on the most confidential subject matter. Therefore, now after his mother also passes away and he's left, he's an orphan now. He's just all by himself. He travels north, he meditates, and then he realizes the Paramatma. He realizes the Paramatma. So this is dharmyam, the perfection of religion, in the sense that even if we are not so perfect in carrying out the religious process regularly, just by associating with great devotees, we can attain perfection. This is how Narada Muni did in his previous lifetime. And then, of course, he goes on to describe in the chapter that after he saw the Paramatma, the form of the Paramatma then disappeared, and he was not able to see anymore. And then he was constantly hankering. He wanted to see that form again, and he was hankering to see that form, that beautiful form of the Lord, but he could not see it anymore. And then the Lord spoke to him and told him that you will not be able to see me again in this lifetime, but you engage in devotional service. So then he starts to chant the holy name, and he engages in devotional service. And then, of course, at the end of Brahma's lifetime, he enters into the body of Mahavishnu. And again, when Mahavishnu breathes out, he comes out again. And now he is the son of Lord Brahma. And he becomes the great celestial spaceman, our empowered incarnation, Narada Muni. Narada Muni is an empowered incarnation. What is the power that he has? The empowerment that he has received is that anyone who comes in touch with Narada Muni becomes a devotee. So that's why Narada Muni has many stalwart disciples like Dhruv, Prahlad, Vyasadev, Valmiki, Bregari the hunter. All these, whoever came in touch with Narada Muni, they all got greatly benefited. They became his disciples, and he was able to preach to them. So therefore, he's called as the empowered incarnation of the Lord. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll deal with the other aspects in the next class. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai.